guys, so tonight's homework is on author's point of view, video 5.4. At the end of the tutorial, you'll understand different types of author's point of view, how to determine those points of view, and how to explain and cite your idea on point of view. This is maybe going to be a little bit longer tonight, so let's get started. As usual, please be on the lookout for the pencil, and that's where I would like for you to take your notes. Okay, so what is the point of view? We talked about this a little bit in class, but basically it's the feeling an author has on a specific topic. I'm going to go over a few different types of point of view to help you be really specific in your explanation. The first one is an objective point of view. So this is where the author is unbiased or neutral. They don't favor one side or the other. Just neutral, they're just giving you the information. A biased point of view, and I'm going to talk about a little bit more specific kinds of biased point of view. So this is one, but I think I might like you to be a little bit more specific. So a biased point of view is when the author only shows one side of the topic and excludes information on the opposite point of view. Now, when we're talking about that kind of biased idea, you could say it's a positive point of view, meaning that they're biased on and feels positively or agrees with the topic of whatever the article is that we're looking at. Or you could say it's a negative point of view. So again, it's a biased point of view that shows that the author feels negatively or disagrees or doesn't support the topic that we're reading about. So it's kind of, it depends on how you phrase what you think your point of view is, that you say it's positive or negative. But I think it's important that you specify positive or negative, and you also use the academic term of biased, right? So that's a word we need to get used to using here. Okay, so how do you determine the author's point of view? Well, first of all, look for words and phrases that kind of signal the viewpoints. I think as we read different articles, especially as we're kind of practicing these skills, I'll definitely point out the clues to you that kind of show what the author's point of view is. But I've got a few questions here that I think would be also helpful as you're going through this. And remember, you can use any of your notes on your test, so take good ones here. So ask these questions. Why did the author write this selection? So actually identifying the author's purpose first is going to help you recognize possible viewpoints, especially in persuasive writing, which is probably what we're going to be reading the most of in the next couple of months. So author's purpose, do that first. It's often easy to identify, but I think it's going to help you narrow down your point of view. Does the author express a view blatantly? Like, does the author come out and say something? Look for clues to that. Is the author's view positive, negative, biased in any way? How do you know? Look for any parts in the text that show or prove this. These could be your quotes. We're always looking for those. What opinions or belief statements are evident in the article? Why do you think the author has this particular opinion or point of view? Do you know anything about the author to provide, background information or, that kind of contextual knowledge to know why they think that way? Don't worry, there's some more questions coming up here. So just like I said, do you have any background information on the author to help you understand? This is a point of reference. Would another author have a different point of view because they have a different background or experience? What pictures does the author paint for you? Looking at those visualization techniques that they're using will definitely help you identify what their point of view is. What evidence did the author include to support their opinions? Again, looking for quotes that you could potentially use. Are there any facts missing? Oftentimes, if you're looking at a biased piece of work, they're going to provide facts in only one genre or one side of the topic and not talk about the other one. All right, so let's take a look at kind of the rubric or what it's going to take to get an A on this test. So basically the rubric says that you can determine the author's point of view and purpose. So you can identify, write it down, and tell me what the point of view and the purpose is. And in your writing, you need to be able to summarize the author's point of view and provide evidence with correct citation. Also, additionally in your writing, explain if the author's viewpoint is credible or not, which is something we haven't quite talked about, more than a little bits and pieces here and there, but we'll probably do a video on that as well. So those are the three main things you're going to be tested on with this particular standard. Sentence frames. Okay, so for those of you looking for at least a proficient score, you could start your author's purpose and point of view explanation with the following sentences. So you might start with the author's purpose is to fill in the blank, and I know this is the purpose because you give a brief little explanation, and then the next sentence would be something like the evidence from the article that proves this is, and then you fill in the blank with a quote. This is going to get you a C, bottom line, but you're going to also need to point out the point of view. So this was purpose. The first two bullet points here were purpose. Now we move on to point of view. The author's point of view is blank, and I know this is point of view because, fill in the blank, and then you provide your evidence. So in total, you're going to write a paragraph that includes most of these pieces, and that will at least get you a C. But if you're looking for mastery or expert, you're going to want to move beyond these sentence frames so you're not so formulaic. That's a big word, just means you're not, following this formula like in math. I want you to put these sentences together with your own voice and your own construction, and don't rely on me to give you a fill in the blank kind of a thing. Sentence frames. Okay, so for those of you looking for at least a proficient score, you could start your author's purpose and point of view explanation with the following sentences. So you might start with the author's purpose is to fill in the blank, and I know this is the purpose because you give a brief little explanation, and then the next sentence would be something like the evidence from the article that proves this is, and then you fill in the blank with a quote. This is going to get you a C, bottom line, but you're going to also need to point out the point of view. So this was purpose. The first two bullet points here were purpose. Now we move on to point of view. The author's point of view is blank, and I know this is point of view because, fill in the blank, and then you provide your evidence. So in total, you're going to write a paragraph that includes most of these pieces, and that will at least get you a C. But if you're looking for mastery or expert, you're going to want to move beyond these sentence frames so you're not so formulaic. That's a big word, just means you're not, following this formula like in math. I want you to put these sentences together with your own voice and your own construction, and don't rely on me to give you a fill in the blank kind of a thing. All right, so now I want to talk about, providing the evidence. In this case, we're using the acronym ICE. So previously when we talked about author's purpose, we used easy as pie. Now we're talking about ICE. Cite your sources like a pro. So you're going to need to give textual support and cite your source, your quote, in your writing. This is a big thing for me. Honors kids have started to do this on a regular basis. Everybody needs to be citing their sources. So let's take a closer look. First of all, the I for ICE means introduce your quotation. So introducing your expert or source is important to readers because it shows it's legitimate and that you're actually using something that makes sense. And you can use signal phrases to help you introduce your expert material. So we'll talk about how to do that in a more smooth and coherent way in class. But you're specifically looking for quotes right now to support author's purpose and author's point of view. And I think that there's a fairly easy, smooth way to introduce your quotation by referencing what it's supporting, whether it's the point of view or the purpose. You also need to cite your quotation. Citing your sources means that you're giving credit to the original author. So just when in doubt, remember to cite it. What should be cited? Anything that you quote word for word from the original source, anything that's paraphrased from the original source. I think sometimes people are thinking that if you just change it into your own words, you don't have to cite it. That's not true. It's not your own original thought. You need to cite it. Any tables, figures, maps that you might use, anything from electronic sources off the internet. Cite interviews. If you interview someone and they give you a quote or something, you need to cite it. Here's an example. By the year 2010, all automotive companies will be required to show evidence of alternative fuel vehicles in production. And then you see at the end of this sentence here, Williams 20, it's in parentheses with a period at the end. That, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what I'm looking for. When you do a citation, it's actually quite simple. In-text citation in this manner is asking for you to put it in parentheses and a period at the end, just like you see, and it's going to be the author's last name and a page number if you have it. So nice and simple. Use the author's last name of the article, the person that wrote the article, and a page number. Very simple. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. Sometimes people do that. Don't make it harder on yourself. And then finally, you need to explain your quote. Please, 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 please don't leave your quote hanging. Tell your readers what it means with regard to your topic and your explanation, and relate it back to your thesis statement or what you're talking about. In this instance, we're talking about author's purpose and point of view. So you want to relate it back to that. Why is it important, and why have you included this quote for us to think about? So explain and support your ideas on author's point of view and purpose. Okay, we're finally finished. So don't forget to fill out the summary and the hot question, press submit on that digital form, and you are done for tonight. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in class tomorrow.